Hello everybody, I'm Matthew and I'm the author of the Undo Life Navigation and Meditation app. And today we're doing our second Untalk, and the title of the talk is Being Frightened of Change. So I'll be helping you understand why change is a good thing, but also why change can be quite frightening and disturbing, and how to actually appreciate that disturbance rather than avoid it and see it as a bad thing. People find themselves being stuck in certain situations in life for prolonged periods and suffering those situations simply because they're scared of change. You can be in a relationship that isn't working very well, in a job that doesn't really suit you, even in patterns of behaviour that you find are not serving you in your life and causing you harm or causing you misery or just making you unhappy with yourself. And yet, not understanding what the process of change really is, you don't know what to do about that. And there's all sorts of ideas in the world, all sorts of meditation apps on the market and concepts being offered to people on how to change, whether it be changing their relationship, changing their condition of their body, changing their mental state or their physical health. And all of these ideas are predominantly thought-based, meaning that we're encouraged to apply a technique or a system of thinking in order to enforce change upon the person that we are. And this enforcing of change upon ourselves doesn't actually work, as all of us tend to find in the long run. That we find ourselves trying to change behaviours only to change them for a little while and end up finding those behaviours operating all over again, or use a meditation or so-called meditation technique to make ourselves feel more calm and focused and peaceful, only to have to use that technique again the day after and the day after and the month after and the year after, indicating that it doesn't work or it's not working. So why is change not occurring? Even though we're trying to change, even though we're applying so many clever techniques and clever ideas to bring about a change, why isn't it working? We have such a resistance to what change really is that these techniques and these ideas of wanting to change from what we are into something else, into something as we see better, are in fact a reaction to the way we already are. Makes sense. You're in a relationship where you're feeling the way you feel and you want that to change. Makes sense that you want to change that. But what you're overlooking there is that when you're in that state of disturbance with how you are, with how something is, that disturbance is a completely natural reaction or response of the body. That's a very deep response from your whole system. And that response is a disturbance with what it is that needs to change. And that disturbance itself is in fact the change that is happening. But we often mistake that disturbance for the problem, simply because it doesn't feel very nice, or simply because it doesn't feel very fulfilling. It's not the way we want to feel. But when we understand that that disturbance is not the problem, but in fact it is the solution, that is the change within the organism, within the living form that you are, trying to occur. It's quite natural to feel a disturbance when something is not good for us, or something is not healthy for us, or something we're doing is harmful, or a relationship we're in is not really helpful to us, or a behaviour that we indulge in is harmful to us, or when we're trying to go to the gym every day in order to achieve a certain change in our shape of our body, and we struggle against feelings inside of ourselves that we think are holding us back from doing what it is we want to do in order to achieve that change. And we think those feelings are, and those resistances to exercise or to change are the problem. But actually, they are the solution. Those feelings are actually why you are unsatisfied with what you are already. These are the feelings within yourself that are holding you back. And by trying to override those feelings, for example, people going to the gym every day and they're trying to force themselves to exercise to a certain point, they always find themselves coming up against those same feelings over and over again. Or in relationship with someone else, where you're in conflict with someone and you don't want to be in conflict with them, you're trying to make the relationship work, but you find those same feelings come up inside of you over and over again. And you simply try and override those, or you try and suppress them with a technique. Try and make yourself feel more peaceful about something that, in truth, you don't feel peaceful about. The disturbance that is there, or the thing inside of you, the feeling inside of you that holds you back, or causes you to react in ways you don't want to react within a relationship situation or to yourself. These are the deeper underlying feelings inside of you that are in fact change trying to happen. But because we react to these feelings, because we react to our disturbances, we overlook the importance of these. And we try to achieve change through the force of some process of thinking, through some technique, or through some ideology we impose on ourselves. Or we try to enforce change on a relationship that just isn't right. Or in a relationship, within a relationship that perhaps is right, but we're trying to enforce change on the other person when the problem is in fact not the other person. But what needs to change is how we are reacting to that other person. And our own reactions are coming from deeper inside of ourselves. And what drives us to act the way we act and to fight against change that is already happening is a misunderstanding that these disturbances that we are feeling every day of our lives are in fact helping us, not harming us. What's harming us is our resistance to these disturbances. And this is why we fear change, because change is not peaceful. Change is chaotic. Change is something coming to an end so that something brand new can occur. Modification is when you just bring about a mental change. You know, I'm going to go to the gym, you're very determined to go to the gym every day, but you're not really wholeheartedly there. And when you're doing your exercise or in that relationship and something becomes disturbing, you find yourself going back into the old patterns of resisting what you're doing or resisting the relationship. And all the time, what you're doing is you're overlooking your own presence. You're overlooking what it is inside of you that you find disturbing. What is it that's holding you back? What is driving your harmful behaviours, which you would like to change but can't change because all you're trying to do is change the behaviour on the outside, change the action on the outside, applying some sort of ideology to bring about some change. Whereas change is not going to happen this way. Change is not something that we can enforce. Change is something that happens of its own volition. We cannot make ourselves different to the way we are. We are feeling disturbance. We're operating a certain way. We have certain behaviours or certain habits in life which we would like to change, or certain inhibitions or limitations in life which we'd like to go beyond. Not understanding that what is the driving force behind these behaviours, behind these limitations, is how we feel inside of ourselves. And when we come up against those feelings, because we don't like them, we act in a way to try and avoid them. We act in a way to try and get past them. You smoke a cigarette, not because you want the cigarette, but because you want to avoid the way it feels before you actually smoke that cigarette. You have a clash with your partner, not necessarily because you're upset with the partner, but primarily because you're upset with how it feels inside of you. How when you're in a relationship, it doesn't only bring up the things you like about yourself, but it also brings up feelings inside of yourself that you don't like. And when those feelings inside of yourself come up that you don't like, you avoid those feelings, and out of avoiding those feelings, you project onto the thing outside of you that you think is making you feel that way, when in fact you always feel that way. It's just every now and then somebody or something outside of you reminds you that you do, and you blame that. You want to change that. You want to change the world. You want to change the person. You want to change the way you look. But it really doesn't matter what you change externally. If you don't change how it feels to be you, or if it doesn't change in how it feels to be you, Doesn't matter what you change externally, you still feel the same. And if you're discontent with yourself, or you're disturbed within yourself, it won't be long before you're disturbed, even though the new thing is there. Even though your partner changes a behaviour, you'll find another reason to be complaining about them. Or even though your body changes in shape, very soon you'll be wanting to change in shape again. And you're never satisfied, because it's not the external, it's not what you're reacting to, what you're thinking you want to change that needs to change. Change is something that happens automatically. Every living organism is going through change all the time. It's the nature of a living organism. It's the nature of life that change is happening all the time. What makes change happen often is that there's external forces coming at you that bring up things within you that you otherwise don't even notice. So when something changes in your job, for example, or you lose your job, you find that you're put in touch with an insecurity inside of yourself that wasn't there when you had your job. And being put in touch with that insecurity inside of yourself, which you managed to avoid by having that job, you're being put in touch with something inside of yourself that is yet to develop. So really, when things change around you in the world outside of you, and you become frightened of these external changes, you're not actually frightened of those external changes. What you're frightened of is how it feels inside of you. You're frightened of feeling the way you feel. By bringing your attention back to the way you feel, being triggered by external changes, you are now giving your attention to the change inside of you that's being triggered, the challenge on you that life is constantly throwing at you. And life is doing this all the time. We don't want it to do that. We want life to be stable and the same all the time. And that's why we have ideologies, that's why we have religions, that's why we have cultures, that's why we have rules and regulations. But as those rules and regulations get tighter and more strict and more rigid and more confining, we find that we feel even more out of control because something else is taking away our choices. And this is something that's happening in the world today. We're seeing it more and more and more, that other people and the people in authority are telling us what to think, how to behave. We're no longer able to think our own thoughts anymore. Not that that's new either. Religion and cultures have been telling people what to think for thousands of years. People think they're thinking their own thoughts when actually that's not even them. It's not them and it's not their own thoughts. They're just stuff they've learned from other people. So in that sense, that gives them a sense of control, a sense of being a part of a community, which gives us a sense of control. But it's all very shallow and very superficial, and once removed from what it is to really be yourself. To be yourself, you're not actually identifying with something outside of you to feel some sort of sense of calm or fulfillment in yourself. The calm and fulfillment within yourself is only going to be there when you find that in yourself, not when we're relying on the world around you to give you that. You're relying on the society you live in to give you some sort of structure, some sort of safety to live within. And yet we look at what's going on in the world today. Really, it's been going on forever, but right now it's in our face. It's not feeling very safe at all. They're not feeling very secure at all. The people, in charge of the world, the people running the governments or the police forces or the different people that we rely on, the medical profession and so on, they're letting us down. We're finding that we're not feeling very secure in that society at all. It's failing us miserably. And when that happens, we get upset. But actually what I'm here to say today is that's a really good thing. It's a really good thing, because what it's showing you is that by relying on people outside of you or a system outside of you to feel secure, to feel safe, you're actually giving your power away to something outside of yourself which you don't understand. You don't understand what these people are telling you to do when you're listening to the doctor. You don't understand why these people were telling you to behave a certain way when you're listening to the politician or any sort of social power. But what you can understand is what's going on inside of you. Only when you understand your life from inside of you will you actually feel that sense of individuality and the reality of you giving you that sense of solidity and support from within yourself. So this is where we start to feel change happening, is inside of ourselves. When things go wrong on the outside and we discover that the world we relied on so much is actually completely unreliable, this is a really good thing, because it's actually showing you the reality that perhaps you were a bit more blind to previously. But the more it falls apart around you, the more you realise that you can't rely on the people around you, you can't rely on the world around you to tell you the truth or to look after you. You need to learn to do this for yourself. And you find out you can't when your world that you rely on, the partner you rely on, the people you rely on, are no longer operating the way you expected them to operate. When the country you're in doesn't live up to its ideologies, and you find things changing in a way that is not aligned with what you expected of the culture and the country you lived in. And this leaves you feeling very let down, very frightened and very insecure. This is just reality coming at you, showing you that actually nothing outside of you can keep you feeling secure or solid for forever. In fact, if you've been relying on that, you've been overlooking your own strength. You've been overlooking what is within yourself and looking to others to give you a sense of stability. Now, when that's taken away, you start to feel very unstable. And this instability you're feeling, this is a process of change going on. This is a really good thing, but it's a really disturbing thing. It's a really good thing because the world right now, as always, but right now it's more obvious, is going through some sort of a change. People are being stirred, people are being disturbed by what's going on in the world. All sorts of changes are happening externally, and we don't know how to deal with these because we're not really understanding these. But what I want to explain to you today is what it's disturbing inside of you. That's why it's going on. We need to shake up every now and then. Without chaos, nothing changes, nothing new comes about. In a world that isn't really functioning that well at all, where people aren't really that happy. I was up in Finland just last week. I walked into the gym and I met this young guy, probably 19 years old. Because of his age, I want to ask him this question. How do you feel? How do you and your generation feel about the way the world is today? You're growing up into this crazy world. How do you feel about that? And I got this most unusual response. And the unusual response, something I did not expect at all, was he said, "We've got so far away from the natural animal we are that we just don't know what we're doing anymore." And it was just amazing to me to hear this from this individual. And he really meant it. The natural animal that we are. The body of ourselves, whereas the only place we have a true sense of ourselves. Not the thoughts we've been fed about ourselves from society, but what we really feel inside of ourselves. What is it to be naturally me? This has been lost. We've become so unnatural in trying to be something that we're not, in trying to be something that isn't natural to ourselves, by following what societies, what religions, what cultures, what other people, even what our parents have been telling us what to do and how to be. We're born a complete creature. We're born complete and whole. And as soon as we can talk, we're told that we need to improve. And we spend the rest of our lives trying to improve, trying to be something we're not. That's all that can mean. If I'm already complete and now I'm going to improve upon myself, what am I going to do? I'm going to try and become something that I'm not. And if I manage to imagine that I'm something that I'm not, then I'm the person that I really am not. That it's so far away from my natural state. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. In that being which I'm not, I feel unsatisfied. I can't help but feel unfulfilled in that. And so that unfulfillment only drives me to keep trying to improve on what I'm not. Keep trying to be a better person. And the more I'm trying to improve on myself, the very act of trying to improve on myself, trying to enforce this change on myself to be something other than what I really am, this act itself is undermining myself. The whole time I'm trying to improve on myself, what am I saying to myself underneath all that is I'm not sufficient as I am. So in that, we get stuck forever. All religions encourage this. All philosophies encourage this. All ideologies encourage this. Culture encourages. Societies encourage this. Improve yourself, improve yourself. There's nothing to improve about yourself. If there's anything about yourself you don't like right now, you as an individual, that you're unhappy within yourself, that will change if you let it. The problem isn't how to change. The problem is getting out of the way so that change can happen. Because your natural system is always trying to get back to its natural state of itself. But by imposing ideas and force on yourself to change all the time, you are preventing that from happening. Every time you feel disturbed by the world outside of you, by your partner, by any change that's happening externally, what you're actually feeling is that the world around you that you relied so much on to feel stable, as that becomes unstable, you discover why you relied on that to feel stable. Because you feel so unstable within yourself. And that reveals that. And why are you feeling so unstable within yourself? It's very simple. Because you're not yourself. You've spent your whole life trying to improve on what you are. In other words, trying to be something you're not. Only to find total dissatisfaction in that. Well, only when you discover that you're not really yourself, that you've got so far away from your natural self, so far away from what it is to be you, that you feel there's an emptiness inside of yourself, a disturbance inside of yourself all the time. And that disturbance is not bad. That is not wrong. That is a change trying to happen. And that change is a good thing. It's going to be good for you. But you have to feel that disturbance in your body. And by feeling that disturbance in your body, not trying to work out where it's going, not trying to guide that change, because change does not happen that way. It must be allowed to happen of its own volition. So how do you get out of your own way? How you get out of your own way is you stop thinking about yourself. You stop thinking about how and what you need to be. And come back to however it is you really are in the flesh of you, in the sensation of you. Not what you think about yourself. They're not even your thoughts. That's what you've been taught to think. But how it actually feels to be you. And those disturbing sensations, by feeling those disturbances, you are allowing the change that is trying to happen inside of you to go on. And if you allow that to go on, that is real meditation. That's the meditation the body does to bring us back to your natural state, to bring all of us back to the state we need to be in order to be fulfilled.